This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I know this story is not going to be covered by the cable news channels, the D.C. press corps. Today is all going to be about a bunch of people sitting around tables who couldn't find their arse with both hands, pontificating about what's going to happen in competitive Senate and congressional races and the implications. But it's this particular poignant for us because this is one of these poisonous people that Chicago has begotten. And he shouldn't go unremarked upon, particularly against the backdrop of the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, that massacre, and particularly against the media's shameless coverage, assigning responsibility for the shooting to President Trump, to Republicans. Political culpability in some places, not in others. Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan, who Democrats, prominent Democrats, routinely embrace. Keith Ellison, deputy DNC chairman. Al Sharpton organized a Black Lives Matter protest with Farrakhan and the new Black Panther Party just a few months ago. Eric Holder pictured with Farrakhan at Aretha Franklin's funeral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sitting behind there with President Clinton.
Maxine Waters embracing Farrakhan following a speech in which he praised Palestinian suicide killers. Bill Clinton, also at the Aretha Franklin funeral.
They're all enjoying Ariana Grande and others.
That great photo of President Obama smiling with Farrakhan in 2005. Never came out. D.C. press corps wasn't interested.
Anybody distancing themselves from Farrakhan this morning?
Not the Iranians, because he was at Tehran University over the weekend to give a speech and to lead chants of death to America and to agree with the mullahs that America is the great Satan. This is in advance of the reimposition of sanctions on Iran by the Trump administration after the coddling of Iran by the previous administration. Louis Farrakhan.
Is it not true that you have called America the great Satan? Well, if you believe what you say, then would not Satan be actively involved in trying to destroy a nation that is set up on the belief and practice of submission to the will of God? So we should not be surprised at what Satan does to ill effect the righteous.
Where's Satan and the Iranian mullahs, the theocratic despots, are the righteous? You got it?
America is making it very hard for Iran to successfully carry out its mission. But if you have the strength to persevere under these hard trials, the victory will be yours.
Nice rooting for Iran there. Every member of the Chicago Press Corps should be asking every Chicago Democrat about Hyde Park's very own Farrakhan. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes for the D.C. Press Corps, since so many prominent national Democrats have embraced, tolerated, if not embraced, Farrakhan. Disgusting, anti-Semitic hate monger. Think about that, and the Linda Sarsours and the leaders of the mobs that President Trump refers to when you go to the polls today. For more on this topic and today's election, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Roger Kimball, editor of The New Criterion, columnist for PJ Media. Roger, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be with you on this important Tuesday.
So let's skip ahead to one possible outcome, the conventionally predicted one that Republicans lose the House and They retain the Senate, maybe even expand the majority in the Senate. So what do the next 2 years look like under that scenario? Is it basically like the last two minus the accomplishments?
Well, I don't think it would. It wouldn't bring everything to a halt. The judicial appointments would continue unabated, which is a very important thing. But it would. As you were pointing out in your opening remarks, the prospect, for example, of Adam Schiff as head of the Intelligence Committee in the House instead of Devin Nunes would mean that the efforts to shed some light on what I regard as probably the biggest political scandal in the history of the country, namely the weaponization and mobilization of the administrative state against a presidential candidate and then against the sitting president, that would stop. You would not have any more indictments of people like John Brennan, James Comey, and other people who should be in jail for their lies and leaks and so on. And the legislative work would pretty much grind to a halt as well. But I think it would be there are gradations of what would happen. I think most people believe that even if the Democrats take the House, they will take it by a fairly slender majority. If that majority is very slender, if it's just a couple of seats, then I think there would be some Democrats in red states essentially who would, on certain issues, cross party lines. But it would not be good. It would be a derailment or a postponement of the Trump agenda to roll back the regulatory state, return power to where it belongs, sovereignty to the people, and to essentially make America great again. That would stop. Now, in my view, Donald Trump, in his 21 or so months in office, has already accomplished more than maybe most presidents accomplish in 8 years. But it would be too bad, because I think that there's a kind of momentum that he has going now, and it would be sad to see it diverted, however temporarily.
So what do you think it would say about Trump's presidency if we don't hold the House, if it flips into Democratic hands?
Not much, really, because let's face it. If you go back decades, that's the usual thing. The party in power loses, a lot of seats. In 2010, Obama lost 63 seats. That was a repudiation of large elements of his early presidency. If Donald Trump loses, 23, 24 seats, let's say, and they take it by one seat, I don't think that will mean very much. It's just if they lose it by 40, that's something else again. The expected thing is that the Democrats will take the House. I, on the other hand, a cheerful chap that I am, think that the most likely outcome is that the Republicans will hold the House by a couple of seats. I might be wrong about that, but that's just as of 8:20 or 8:19 on Tuesday morning in Connecticut, that's the way things look to me. It's the polls across the country have softened for Democrats over the last couple of weeks, and the president, as he did in 2016, has been campaigning, with extraordinary vigor across the country.
Well, and it's noteworthy when the professional prognosticators like Charlie Cook give themselves wide margin. It could be anywhere between 20 and 45. So, that tells you they're hedging.
In other words,
yeah,
he has no idea.
Right.
That's what he's saying. He has no idea. I think we've learned that pollsters really don't know what they're talking about. Now, as you get closer and closer to the election, there's often more and more data. But the truth, I think we've learned that Republicans or pro-Trump Republicans are shy about saying who they're going to vote for. That certainly happened in 2016.
Let me.
I live in Connecticut. I think it's possible. In fact, I would say it's not unlikely that the Republican is going to win the governorship race, which would be pretty big news.
That's interesting. That'd be nice too, because there's some other states where the Republicans in trouble. Let me ask you about this idea of a divided Congress, though. Could that end up being the best case scenario for Trump's reelection in 2020? Because then he'll have Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats to run against and to term obstructionists and the like.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard that theory. I think it's plausible, but I think it's better to win. I would like to win now and win in 2020. And I think if we win now, I don't think it would be better for Trump's agenda to lose now, because I think that one of the reasons why I think that the Republicans do have a pretty good chance of holding the House is the extraordinary accomplishments of the president in 21 months. I mean, the economy is, on fire. And people have to people must feel that. They must feel the energy, the confidence, the renewed faith in America. That is something that is, you can describe it in data points. You can, look at the stock market and consumer confidence and growth and unemployment and jobs. All of that stuff those are little data points. But what matters more, I think, is a psychological reality that, as Ronald Reagan put it, it's morning in America again, and you can feel that. You feel it both in the workers, but you also feel it in the negative way, in the extraordinary hysteria and malicious vituperation of the left, who realizes that this gravy train that they've been riding for decades may really be coming to a screeching halt, and they're going to be thrown out, and that would be delicious.
Speaking of the left, I mean, the last 2 days you've seen Elizabeth Warren, President Obama, just out on the campaign trail, trying to relive his rock star days. But noticeably absent is Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Do you know what's going on?
No more than you, Amy. I think that the instinct for self-preservation has not been entirely bred out of the Democrats, so they understand that Bill Clinton is a liability, and Hillary Clinton, she really is like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, you take a look behind the curtain, and you have this, sad, wizened, bitter, Chardonnay swilling person who is, you see her utter irrelevance and, kind of pathetic maliciousness. So they're not going to help anybody get elected anywhere in the country.
What's your assessment of Trump's decision in the closing weeks to really emphasize the caravan and border security as an issue?
Listen, the reason, if you had to pick one reason, why was Donald Trump elected to begin with? It was because he understood that America is not the name of a space in a global entity, but it's a country. And a country only exists if it has borders. And the willful, the willful ignoring of our country's borders and basically pursuing a kind of open borders policy by both the Democrats and the Republicans in the previous decades has not only changed the demographic complexion of the country, but it has changed everything about the country. People don't like it. Americans don't like it. And I think that the president understood that if you had to pick one reason, that's why he was elected. And this, I don't really like the word caravan. I'm not sure I have a different word, but this is thousands of people, many of them criminals, who are proposing to assault our borders and come into the country illegally, and that has to be stopped. And I think that most Americans who are not joined at the hip to the ideology of CNN and the New York Times and kindred outlets feel similarly. They don't want it, and I think the the president's strong stand with respect to the impending invasion can only do him and the cause of the Republicans good in today's election.
He is Roger Kimball, editor of The New Criterion, which I highly recommend, columnist for PJ Media. Roger, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear special election night coverage tonight, beginning at 7. Then talk about it with Dan and Amy tomorrow morning, starting at 5 a.m. on your election station, AM 560. The Answer.